So we Shkalim Perek Bet Mishnah Hey. So since we were talking about this, we're going to discuss about this. Agav ha'alacha sheshaninu Mishnah Gimel, because we discussed a particular matter on Mishnah Gimel, be'inyan mutar shkalim. It's talking about when you raise up money for a certain charity, for example, shkalim, and you have extra. The question is, what do you do with the extra? That's what we discussed.
When you save.
Yeah, when you save. Umutar chatat.
Pushka said you have shekel and a half. You needed only a half shekel.
And we also discussed there's a difference between mutar shkalim, if you save for the Moed, the half shekel, or you save for a sin offering. There's a difference in the two. Because when you save for a half shekel, you save a specific amount. So you know in your head, once a specific amount is reached, you're done. But when you save for a sin offering, you don't have a specific amount. Because you can bring a big cow, you can bring a small cow, you can bring a sheep, you can bring even a flower. There's a lot of amounts, so there's no specific amount, so therefore the rules are going to be different. באה משנתנו ללמוד בעניין מותרות של קורבנות אחרים או של צדקה. So our Mishnah is going to teach us about sacrifices of other sacrifices if you save for them, or charity. You save for a specific charity and then you have extra. What do you have to do with that extra? Let's see. מותר שקלים חולין. Yeah, there's a specific gizbar. It's called somebody who cares about the money, treasurer. But sometimes it's you, because
left for you.
Yeah. But sometimes it's Sometimes, but over here we're not going to talk about. You're going to see soon. He's right. Yeah. But over here he's talking about a different thing.
Okay.
We're not discussing exactly the same thing. Half and half. We see. Mutar shkalim chulim. So we learned before already that if you save for shkalim and you have extra, since you have in your mind only this amount, that's what I need, you know the amount that you need, so whatever extra is chulin, whatever extra, even though you put it in that pushka, you put it in that tzedakah box, belongs to you, the extra, because you saved it in this bag for shkalim. המכנס מעות לשם שקלו, so somebody who puts in money on the side so he can pay his taxes for the shekel, אם מצא שהם יהם יותר על שקל, if he found he has more, המותר חולין, the extra is going to be חולין, כדעת בית הלל. This is according to the opinion of the house of הלל. מותר עשירית האיפה, if a person saves for עשירית האיפה, what is this עשירית האיפה, the 10th of the האיפה, המכנס מעות לקנות בהם עשירית האיפה סולת, לחטאת. So the rich people, when they give a sin offering, they give a bull. But not everybody can afford a bull. So some people only bring a sheep. Not everybody can give a sheep. So some people give birds. Not everybody can give doves. So some people give wheat. That's the least amount. So this guy is a poor person. He puts money for עשירית האיפה. כגון שחטא בביטוי שפתיים, the sin, he said something he wasn't supposed to say, או בטומאת המקדש וקדושיו, or he was impure when he entered the temple, שנאמר בו, ואם לא תשיג ידו לשתי טורים, such a person is so poor, he doesn't even have enough money to buy 2 doves, או לשני בני יונה, והביא את קורבנו אשר חטא עשירית האיפה סולת. There's still a way he can bring a sin offering from bread, from wheat offering, לחטאת for sin. ונותר מן המעות הללו לאחר שקנה עשירית האיפה. And there's something that remains. He bought the flour, he made the bread, and then there's some money left over. So what does he do with that money? What is it designated to? Or mutar kenei zavim. When a person is a zav has got emanation from his body. He's impure because he's got something coming out of his body. So that person, when he becomes pure again, he needs to bring a sacrifice. A sacrifice is 2 doves. So it says mutar kinei zavin, when he brings the 2 doves, kinei zavot vekinei yoldot, also a zava, a female that has emanation from her body, or a woman that gives birth, all those 3 types, they need to bring shtei turim or shnei bnei yonah, they need to bring 2 doves, shemiviim azavim, that the zavim have to bring, va'azavot, and the female zavim, va'yoldot, and the women who gives birth, לאחר שטהרו נקראים כן. After they become impure, they called a nest, because the nest means 2 doves. ואם אספו מעות לקנות בהם את הקן והיו יתרות על מחיר הקן. So they had a saving account. They put in the pushka because they know they need to pay for the sacrifice. And any chataot ve'ashamot, any sin offering or any guilt offering, different between a sin offering. A sin offering.
Doesn't give us in a way a conclusion.
Yeah. He tells you all these things together. He's going to give you in the end. Yeah. Any sin offering, any guilt offering. Sin offering is you know for sure you did something wrong. Guilt offering you don't know. There's a suffix. There's a doubt where you did something wrong. That's the difference between them. וכן המכנס מעות לקנות בהם חטאת או אשם, a sin offering or a guilt offering, ונותרו מעות לאחר שקנה את החטאת או את האשם. In all these cases, it doesn't belong to you. Like in the shkalim, מותריהם נדבה. The rest of that money has to give to a charity. It doesn't belong to you. It has to go into charitable thing. מותר המעות שכל אלו הולך לנדבה. What's נדבה? Which charitable thing? היינו לקנות בו עולות. Like we said before, we don't want to leave the altar doing nothing when it's a weekday. You know, there's not a lot of clients in the Beis HaMikdash, then the altar is just standing there. There's nothing happening. So they would bring sacrifices anyway. Every couple of minutes, they will bring another sacrifice. So that sacrifice, that extra sacrifice that goes on the altar, when nobody's using it, that's what it's going to go for. שמקריבים אותם בזמן שהמזבח עומד בטל, לקיץ המזבח. Like we learned before, this is called קיץ המזבח. And you bring the sacrifice from that time that the altar is standing empty. זה הכלל. So this is the rule. כל שהוא בא לשם חטאת ולשם אשמה, everything that comes, every saving bag, that for the sin offering or guilt offering, מעות שנאספו כדי לקנות בהם קורבן הבא משום חטא ואשמה, any sacrifice that from guilt offering or sin offering, מותרן נדבה. Whatever is extra in that bag goes to charity. המעות העודפות הולכות לעולות נדבה. This is charity sacrifices. In other words, sacrifice that you bring on the altar like את המזבח. מותר עולה לעולה. If you have a sacrifice that's called olah. Olah means that the whole thing gets burned to God. Nothing goes to the Kohen, nothing goes to the person. He says, I want to give everything to God. Yeah? So if you have a bag for olah, and you have an extra, so you can, that extra will also go for a burnt offering. Yeah? So mutar, whatever is extra, has to be since it was designated for a burnt offering, it has to go to a burnt offering. המפריש מעות לקנות בהם קורבן עולה ונשתער לו מן המעות הללו יביא מהם עולה אחרת. So he needs to bring two sacrifices, one fat and one small. מותר מנחה למנחה. מה שנותר מן המעות שהפריש לו בהם קורבן מנחה. If it was a sacrifice for mincha, we're going to learn about this difference between sacrifices later on. I don't remember them myself right now. יביא בהם מנחה אחרת. He has to bring another mincha. I think mincha is a wheat offering. מותר שלמים לשלמים. If it was a peace offering, a peace offering means that a little bit goes to the altar, a little bit goes to the Kohen, a little bit goes to the person. המפריש מעות לקנות קורבן שלמים, to bring peace offering, ונשתייר מהם, and you have a little bit left, יביא באותו מותר קורבן שלמים אחר. You're going to bring a peace offering. Whatever the peace offering is, whatever you designated it for, that's where it has to go to.
זה לא מובן, it's not understood here, because if I save for קורבן שלמים, I have maybe 50 cents extra, $1 extra, how can I buy another one?
For the next one.
Oh.
Yeah, it has to be used for that. It has to be used for that. Give it to your friend. I don't care. But that 50 cents has to be used for sacrifice. Yeah, you don't, whatever.
You can give it to somebody that
will bring it another sacrifice, the same type. Yeah. It has to be, it was designated for a specific use, it has to be to that specific use. Mutar Pesach, we already discussed this when we were doing Pesach. Mutar Pesach leshlamim. If you have extra you save for the Pesach sacrifice and you have extra, that goes for the peace offering. That you can use for the peace offering, because you cannot use it for a Pesach because it has to be nominated. מה שנשתייר מן המעות שאפשר לו מקרון הפסח, whatever is used for Pesach sacrifice, מביא בהם קורבן שלמים, he brings a peace offering, Bavli, למדים זה ממה שכתוב. Yeah, but it's a problem, didn't we say whatever is designated has to be designated, so keep it for Pesach next year. Why don't you do that? So how do you know that Pesach you can change to Shlamim? So it says, the verse in the Torah tells you that Pesach you can change to Shlamim. Where does it tell it to you? It says, וזבחת Pesach leHashem. It says you should bring the Pesach sacrifice to God, Elokecha, to God your Lord. Look what it says. Tzonu bakar, cattle and sheep. But what are you talking about? What do you mean cattle? There's no cattle in the Pesach sacrifice. In Pesach sacrifice has to be what? A sheep or a gdi, a goat or a sheep. It is not allowed to be cattle. So what is it talking about over here? V'chi Pesach mina bakar uba. It says, hey, and everybody know you cannot bring cattle for a Pesach sacrifice. Ela, what it means is, mutaro, if you have extra in that bag, in that saving account, yehe ledvar haba mina bakar v'hainu shlamim. It has to be something that comes from cattle, which means that you have to exchange it for a peace offering. That's how you learn it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be. If that verse wouldn't be here, you'll have to keep it for next year Pesach. Next. Mutar nezirim lenezirim. A nazir was saving money for his sacrifice, right? And he's got now extra. It has to be used as a nazir for another nazir, or for him next time he becomes a nazir. Gabu ma'ot letzorech korbanot. Oh, over here it changes a little bit. Up to now, you were saving the money. Now it's going to be a community is saving, or I don't care who. People are saving money for a specific cause. That's right.
It's poor guy.
For example, גבו מעות לצורך קורבנות של נזירים עניים. People collected money for the necessity of נזירים who are poor, ונותרו מהן, and you have extra money. So what do? יתנו את המותר לקורבנות נזירים אחרים. You cannot say, hey, now let's give it to the orphans, or let's give it to the Ziz. No, you raised money for Nazirim. The money has to go to the Nazirim, to the Nazirs. Mutar Nazir lenedava. Nazir, but what happened if a Nazir is saving money for himself? Nazir שהפריש מעות לצורך קורבנותיו, but a Nazir that he started putting away money for his sacrifices, in his money, it's not going to go to Nazirim. It's going to bring to his sacrifice. So now, once he has the sacrifice, what's the rest going to go to? He doesn't need to give it. So it says, "Hamutar holech leolat nedava." That can go to the charity one. You can exchange it from one charity to another charity, from the charity of the Nazir to the charity of the Mizbeach. Why can you do it? Because in his mind, he says, once I'm finished with me, the rest can do whatever he wants. When you collect as a community for Nazirim, it has, in your mind, all the money has to go for Nazirim. That's the difference. Mutar aniyim la'aniyim. You raise money for poor people. It has to go to the poor people. You cannot start changing it to something else. Gabu ma'ot stam letzorech aniyim. They collected money for the necessity of poor people. לאכילם או להלבישם, to feed them or to dress them, ונותר מן המנעות הללו. Somebody, billionaire came, small town, there's only like 5,000 people, there's 5 aniyim over there, that's it, you finished with them. He gave $1 billion, you have got enough money for them. What do you do with the rest of the money now? So he says, you can use it for the roads, you can use it for other things. He says, it was raised for what? It was raised for poor people. You have to use it only for what? For poor people.
It looks like the money that you raise, it's designated.
It designated for one thing, yeah. מניחים אותם לעניים אחרים. So it says, maybe you can give it. You don't have enough poor people over here, give it to poor people in another town. But it has to be used for poor people. It cannot be used for roads. It cannot be used for other public structures. But another thing, this is an interesting one that comes out a lot today. Somebody raises money for a poor person. So sometimes it catches the internet. You know, so you're trying to raise $1,000 for the guy, and all of a sudden it's $5 million in the bank account. So he says, okay, he needed $1,000, or he needed a car, so we bought him a car, but now we have enough for another 20 cars. So he says, what do you do with the rest of the money? So
It's needed for him.
the problem is it was mutar le'ani. They raised money for him specifically. So what do you do now? Mutar ani leoto ani. So it says, whatever is left raised for one poor person, it has to go to that one poor person. Gabei ma'ot letzorich ani mesuyam. If you raise the money for a specific cause, specific ani, specific poor person, להאכילו או להלבישו, to feed him, or he can eat, מה שנותר מן המעות נותנים לאותו עני. Whatever is remaining, no, he's not an ani or no, he's a multi-billionaire. Yeah, doesn't matter. Give it to him. It was, you raise it to him, you're not allowed to exchange the designation. Mutar shvu'im leshvu'im. You raised money to take people out of jail. In that time, there was a custom that the governor will take people, put him in jail until the community would raise enough money to get the leaders out. So this is called pidyon shvu'im. So if you raised money for this cause, pidyon shvu'im, gabei ma'ot lezorich pidyon shvu'im, you raised money in order to take people out of jail, ולאחר שפדו נותר מן המעות הללו, and then there's a little bit left, מניחים אותו לפדויים שהוא מחרים. You have to leave it there, because there's going to be, God forbid, but there's going to be other ones. In other words, you have to use it for that purpose. But מותר שבוי לאותו שבוי. But if you raised money to one particular person, yeah, to get him out of jail, for him to get out of jail, then the money, you're raising it to him, not for שבויים. מותר שבוי לאותו שבוי. That money goes to that person. אבל אם גבו מעות לפדות בהם שבוי מסוים, in other words, even though you're raising it because it's a שבוי, you would think, oh, so you can use it for other שבויים. You can't. You raise it for him. Him out trumps the fact that he's in jail. מה שנותר מן המעות נותנים לאותו שבוי. Whatever is remained from this money, you give to that guy. מותר המתים למתים. You raise money to bury a dead person. He is poor, he doesn't have money for a חברה קדישה. So you raise money for that person. It has to be used for dead people. Yeah? מותר המתים למתים, גבי מעות לצורך קברות מתי מצווה. Somebody doesn't have enough money for חברה קדישה to get buried, and you raise money for that purpose. Not for him specifically, for the purpose of that cause. או מתים עניים, or dead people who are poor, וקברו מהם והותירו, and then you bury them and you remain some cash, מניחים את המותר לקבורת מתים אחרים. You leave the rest for other dead people. מותר המת, this is a good one. Okay. מותר המת ליורשיו. You raised, if you raised money for the necessity of a specific dead person, yeah, like for an ani, something, specific dead person died, there doesn't have enough money. Mutar met, and now you can't give it to him. What do you mean? How are you going to give it? You buried him. So no relatives. He has relatives, yeah. The relatives are also poor. They don't have enough money. Orphans, 5-year-olds. So it says, where does the extra money go to? So it says the extra money goes to the inheritors, to his sons, whoever inherits him. That's what the extra money will go to. Even though you raised it for him, it should be raised for another dead person. Yeah, it's specifically for him, but he's not here now. So what do you do with him? So it's problematic. So some say, since the inheritor inherits him, you give it to the inheritor. Okay, we're going to see it's problematic. We're going to see soon. מותר המת ליורשיו, אבל אם גבו מעות לצורך קבורתו של מת מסוים, if it was a specific person, נותנים את המותר ליורשי המת. You give the rest to the one who's going to inherit this dead person. רבי מאיר אומר, Rabbi Meir disagrees. He says, no, you don't do that. It was designated for what? For dead people. What are you giving it to alive people? Okay, you can do that. Rabbi Meir אומר, מותר המת, יהיה מונח עד שבוא אליהו. Since you don't know what to do with it, yeah? Wait for Eliyahu Navi. It's like money that is in limbo now. Yeah? Yeah. It's in limbo. We don't know what to do with it. If you give it over here, you might do a problem. If you give it over there, you might do a problem. I don't care where you're going to give the money. Somebody can say that you're doing something wrong. Therefore, so for you not to do something wrong, keep the money in the bank account until Eliyahu comes and tell you what to do with it. יהיה מונח עד שיבוא אליהו. ואין משתמשים בו. You're not allowed to use the money for any cause. That's it, it's done. Rabbi Natan says, mutar hamet. He says, I have a solution. That's going to be, it says you can make a nice gravestone. You don't have to make, the rest, After you buried him, you can make a very fancy gravestone. You use it for the dead person.
Why don't they give it to charity on his name?
You can't.
Of the dead person.
You can't give it.
It was for him.
You can't.
Why?
He doesn't want to. You can't give my money to somebody else without I don't want to. It's stealing. He doesn't want to. If he wants, he will give.
How do you know he doesn't want?
How do you know he does? You have to prove that he does. You understand? That's it.
What is it? Somebody is on his bed. What does he want to do? Does he want money? He wants to do charities. He wants to do tzedakah.
No, he wants to give it to his children, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't want it to go to charity. He wants to give it to his children, and that's the problem. You don't know where he wants the money there. Okay, mutar hamet bonim lo nefesh al kivro. So Rabbi Natan says, I can save the problem. Let's build him a nice gravestone. Nefesh is a gravestone, by the way. The word nefesh that's used in the Mishnah means a gravestone. מאותם המעות שנשתיירו לאחר קבורתו, from the money that is remained after his get buried, בונים לו מצבה על קברו. You're going to build a nice headstone. בבבלי מבאר רבה את טעמם של הטענים החולקים כאן במותר המת. So now the Bavli, actually the Gemara, discusses the logic behind the three systems. It says, what's the argument over here? So let's see. It says like this. The question is, does the dead person want the money or he doesn't want the money? That's the discussion. In other words, is it embarrassing to use the money? Some claim that to use that money is embarrassing for the dead person. So let's see what's the logic.
To use it for what?
For it doesn't matter. The fact that the fact that he died and he needed the community to bury him, that money becomes, he's embarrassed by it. He says, I don't want that money, that embarrassing money, to be used for things that, we're going to see what the logic is. לפי שהמת מתבזה, because it is embarrassing for the dead person, על המעות הללו שגבו אותן לשמו. It's embarrassing that people had to raise money for him in order to bury him. He didn't have enough money. He lived for 120 years and he didn't have enough money even to bury himself. It's an embarrassing thing. So the dead person is embarrassed. וסובר תנקמה, and the Tanakama holds up, because it's an embarrassment thing, שניחא לו למת להתבסות לאחר מיתתו לטובת יורשיו. Now the question is, a normal person, yeah, what is his mindset? That's what we're discussing. In other words, the question is, when a person is already he had to be buried. His children did not have enough money to bury him. He had to be buried. He had to use the community. So now, after he uses the community, it says, what does he prefer? So it says, since he's already embarrassed, does he prefer that the money is not going to be embarrassing his children, or does he prefer that the money is also going to be embarrassing his children? That's the question. And the Tanakama holds that since he's already getting the embarrassing by getting married, it's not the end of the world that his children will use the money. It's not so embarrassing. It is embarrassing, but not to such a degree that he doesn't want to give it to them. In other words, we look at his mindset and we decide that his mindset is that he prefers that his kids are going to have money and be embarrassed a little bit. That's what we look at his mindset. Hilkach. So therefore, mutar hamet leyorshav. So therefore, the Tanakama says we are thinking what's in his mindset. So therefore, in his mindset is he wants to give it to his offsprings, even though the offsprings are going to be embarrassed. ורבי מאיר ספק לו אם המת מוחל על ביזיונו בשביל הנעת יורשיו. And Rabbi Meir says, I'm not sure. Maybe he doesn't want to. He says, I don't know if he wants to give it to his inheritance, also to have the embarrassment. Yes, he wants the embarrassment for himself because he doesn't have a choice. But his offspring, that's something else. ולכן סוברו שמותר המת יהיה מונח עד שיבוא אליהו. He says, since I'm not sure if he wants to or not want to, therefore I say we'll have to stick here until we figure out what he wants. ורבי נתן סובר שבוודאי אין המת מוכר על ביזיונו. Rabbi Natan says, you're crazy. For sure he doesn't want the embarrassment to go to his children. 100% he doesn't want it. So therefore you cannot give it to the children. You give it for the dead person. That's all you can do. בשביל הנעת יורשיו. He doesn't do it for the embarrassment, for the offsprings. הילקח יעשו לו מן המותר מצבה על קברו. Therefore you're going to do from the extra money, you can do for him a nice grave, but you cannot, don't embarrass also, he doesn't want to embarrass his children. That's this one. That's his mindset.
Mindset in the old time, you know, it's, today I don't think people will, if you give him money, is going to get embarrassed.
Depends whom.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, give me more.
Yeah, it depends whom. There are people who also embarrassed today. V'halacha ketanakama. In the halacha is like Tanakama, that we are assuming that the person is not embarrassed enough not to give it to his children, so therefore he does give it over to his children. That's the halacha.